make sense of the incredibly confusing and, frankly, tense situation between the Trump administration and Iran. One minute, we're hearing about peace deals on the table, and the next, it feels like we're on the brink of war. So what is really going on? We're going to try and decode this thing together. You really have to look at the two sides of the coin here. On one hand, you've got President Trump talking about a 15-point plan, maybe even negotiations. These are all words that sound like cooling things down. But then you look at the actions, and it's a totally different story. We're talking thousands more troops being deployed, and the actual fighting on the ground, that hasn't stopped. It's a real case of watch what they do, not what they say. So that's our first big challenge. We've got to separate the signal from the noise. What are the things that actually point to real policy and what's just talk? Figuring out this contradiction is the key to understanding the bigger picture here. Which brings us right to the million-dollar question. With all this conflicting info flying around, what is actually going on? Well, to get to the bottom of it, we have to look at how the other side of this conflict has been getting ready for this exact moment. And that brings us to what you could call Iran's survival playbook. And it turns out Iran has been preparing for a confrontation like this for years. They've developed a strategy that's way more sophisticated than a lot of people in the West ever gave them credit for. At the very core of this playbook is something called the Mosaic Doctrine. See, Iran watched very closely what happened in Iraq and Libya, where you take out the guy at the top and the whole system just collapses. They were determined not to let that happen. So they broke up their powerful Revolutionary Guard Corps into 31 separate, semi-independent units. The whole idea is to make a single decapitation strike pretty much impossible. And this structure, it's proven to be incredibly resilient. For a long time, Western intelligence thought the leadership chain was maybe, 3 or 4 people deep. But the reality, it's believed to be 7 or 8 levels deep, maybe even more. Israel actually tried a lightning strike to take out the leadership, and it just didn't work. You knock out the top 2 commanders, and their replacements are already in place, ready to go. Now, Iran is smart. They know they can't go head-to-head with the US in a traditional war. So instead, they use what's called an asymmetric strategy. It's brilliant in a way. First, they bleed your resources. They'll use a $20,000 drone to make the US fire a $13 million missile. Second, they hit you where it hurts, the economy. They can threaten to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which is a major choke point for global oil. And third, they've built up some serious cyber capabilities that can cause real chaos for major US companies. Okay, so this gets us to what might be the biggest misunderstanding in this whole conflict. What does winning even mean to each side? Because as we're about to see, their definitions could not be more different. Let's break it down. For Israel, a win is nothing less than a full-on regime change in Iran. Simple as that. For Iran, though, winning is just surviving. Every single day that the current regime is still standing is another day they've won. And the USA? Well, that's the big question mark, the real unknown quantity in this whole thing. And you really can't overstate this point about Iran's mindset. Their leadership isn't just a bunch of politicians. They've been described as a believing theocratic regime. This means they're not just trying to win some political chess match. They are ideologically dug in and fully prepared for a long, painful fight to survive. All right, so let's flip this around now and look at the other side of the board. President Trump is dealing with these huge pressures, and they are pulling him in completely opposite directions. On one shoulder, you've got the entire business world. The general feeling, which BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink put into words, is basically finish the job. Why? Because they are terrified that if Iran gets control of the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices could shoot up to $150 a barrel. And that could easily trigger a massive global recession. But then, on the other shoulder, Trump is facing a political nightmare back home. We're talking record low approval ratings, people losing faith in his handling of the economy, and you've even got former intelligence officials out there publicly questioning if there's even a good reason to go to war. That is a ton of pressure pushing him away from a bigger conflict. So what you end up with is this incredibly volatile, unpredictable situation. Both sides are completely dug in, they're both facing these really complex pressures, and frankly, there's just no obvious path forward for anybody. And that main diplomatic option, that 15-point plan we mentioned, it seems like it was dead before it even got started. And the reason is, it reportedly demands that Iran dismantle its clerical power structure. For the regime, that's a total non-starter. They all remember the lesson from Libya's Gaddafi. Leaders who voluntarily give up their weapons, they don't stick around for very long. When you boil it all down, the United States is staring at a threat on multiple fronts at once. The biggest concern is Iran choking the global economy. Right behind that are advanced cyber attacks. And then you have the constant risk of military escalation and even global terrorism. The stakes couldn't be higher. Which leaves us with this final, pretty unsettling thought. The US doesn't seem to be fully in control of where this is going. Iran is playing a long game of survival with a strategy that's working surprisingly well. And you have an American president being pulled back and forth between escalation and de-escalation. So you have to ask, in a conflict like this, what happens when it feels like no one is truly in control?